The pop-up windows. There's a warning.
Members idea just sounds like
it took a while. The internet was like yeah, one camera on it and the camera off.
the camera off and audio.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to control audio.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Gobin from the School of Medicine. So we're basically hosting the session this evening, but people are still joining. So I think, if you don't mind very much, we'll just wait a few more minutes just to give people a chance to join, and then we will start.
Make sure it's muted.
While we're waiting for others to join, could you please let me know if there are any close family members of Dr. Chatterdeo here? Close family members or immediate family members. You can use the, you can either say it out loud or you can use the icon, the yes, the green check mark to indicate if you are, if you're comfortable with using Zoom. If not, please just unmute your mic and let me know. Because I did see one username as Chatterdeo family. But I'm having some trouble finding it back, finding back that user in the list. because we now have 114 people on the call. Oh, let me search. Chatterdeo. Yes, so I do see we have someone here called Chatterdeo family. Your mic is muted. Okay.
Reeta got knocked off and back on now.
Okay, good, Dr. Cummings. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Like some air. Like press message you must reply right away.
Turn on the TV. Turn on the TV.
Wait. Really? Dr. Reeta, just wish to ensure that co-chancellor is here, right?
So you said.
Sorry, Dr. Cummings, what was that? Sorry, can everybody please mute their mic?
Co-chancellor is with us, right?
Okay.
Honorable Pro-Chancellor Joe Singh, he's here.
I'm here. Yeah. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. All right. So it is now actually 11 minutes past 7, and we did say we would start at 7 o'clock. I think we've had a little bit of a slowdown in people joining. So we'll make a start, and hopefully, more people will join as time goes by. So good evening, everyone. Formally, I'm Dr. Reeta Gobin. I'm the director of the School of Medicine at University of Guyana. I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening as we pay tribute to someone who was a very dear and valued member of not just the medical fraternity, not just our School of Medicine, but generally our lives as an acquaintance, a friend, a brother, a son, a father, a husband. There is no limit to the lives that he touched, Dr. Seepersaud Chatterdeo. Now, what we're going to do is, for the first part of the evening, we will do something. We will have something that's a little bit more structured, and then I will call on specific people to speak. But then after that, we will basically open the floor for tribute from anyone who wishes to say something. I just wanted to let you know that the session is being recorded so that we can share with his family, obviously, because they might not be, understandably, they might not be up to joining this evening, to participating and so on, but I'm sure they would appreciate hearing from everyone, when they feel able to do that. Now, I would just like to ask that people mute their mic when they're not speaking, because otherwise, you know, the sounds will interfere with the people who are speaking. So if that could be done, we would really appreciate it. And please do it yourself so that I don't have to call someone out, because, you know, that might be a little bit embarrassing if I have to call your name to be muted. Now, what I would like to do is start with just formally acknowledging the presence of some persons from the University of Guyana. We have the Pro-Chancellor, Brigadier General Joseph Singh. We have the DVC of Academic Engagement, who is Dr. Emmanuel Cummings. And I see that we have Dr. Hardat Persaud. And is that Dr. Vindhya Persaud? Is she on? Yes, I see her here. So I should say Honorable Minister Vindhya Persaud, who, as you know, is Minister of Good evening, Human Services and yes. I see Dr. Hardat Singh. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me if this is a little bit haphazard because of the way the list comes up on my screen for me to know who's here. So I just wanted to acknowledge some of those persons who are, prominent members of our society and of the university. And thank you all so much for being here. Now, what I would like to do is just to start off with the tribute from the School of Medicine, and then I will call on some persons to speak. And I will start off by giving just a brief summary of Dr. Chatterdeo's professional life. Well, his formal and professional life, which is, I think, a lot of it is known to most of us here because most of us here were professional colleagues of his. And then once I do that, we will move into, when we get to your own contributions, I think we will get to see more of, the personal side of who Dr. Chatterdeo was. So for those of you who may not know, Dr. Chatterdeo was born in 1972 on the 19th of October. So he was actually only 47 years old. And he attended the St. Thomas More Primary School before moving across to St. Angela's Primary School. And in 1984, he entered the Queen's College as his secondary school. After QC, he went on, I think we might actually have some persons here who have known him since those days, since his Queen's College days.
Oh, this is
Then,
so whoever.
Please mute. Thank you. Then from QC, he went on to do the Bachelor of Pharmacy degree at the University of Guyana before then proceeding to the School of Medicine. So actually, when he entered the School of Medicine, he was already a qualified pharmacist, which I'm sure, really helped him to get through some of our tougher courses in pharmacology. And I know for a fact that he actually helped some of the junior students with their pharmacology because of his background. Then he graduated from the School of Medicine in 2001. And then, of course, proceeded to practice at the Georgetown Public Hospital. He later on specialized in pediatrics. He obtained his Master of Medicine in Pediatrics also from the University of Guyana, but in collaboration with McMaster University in Canada. And I know we have I'm hoping we have Dr. Narendra Singh on the call, who was one of the persons that helped to establish that master's program, and Dr. Singh, sorry, helped to set up that program. And so Dr. Chatterdeo was one of the first graduates in the first cohort of graduates in Guyana to specialize locally in pediatrics. And then, of course, he went on to have a very illustrious practice. He was very well known, very admired and respected by everyone who knew him. And he's been actually teaching in the School of Medicine for more than 10 years. He became the principal tutor of pediatrics, the pediatrics clerkship in the school for several years, then passing the mantle on to Dr. Areefa Alladin, who is going to be joining us a little bit later. And then when Dr. Alladin went off on her postdoc fellowship, he actually resumed the position of principal tutor just to help us out while she was away. And I know he took on more than his fair share of hours so that, you know, to help with the teaching and so on in Dr. Alladin's absence. And so while all of this information gives us an idea of the kind of, you know, practical accomplishments and achievements that Dr. Chatterdeo made, they don't even begin to scratch the surface of who he really was and how many people he touched, and, you know, how many people were genuinely enlightened, whose lives were made better just by getting to know him, by being his patient or his student or his colleague. And I'm hoping that while this evening, of course, everyone is feeling, you know, a great sense of loss and grief, I'm hoping that as we recall our fondest memories of Dr. Chatterdeo, for just a few hours, we can forget the grief and remember the joy and the happiness that we knew throughout his life, as our friend and brother and colleague throughout his life. My own personal memory of him, I've known him for about 20 years, because as I said, we were students together in the School of Medicine. He was 1 year senior to me, and I remember our Honorable Minister, Vindhya Persaud, back then she was just Vindi. We were all just students together, and we used to meet. They were senior to me, but we still used to meet to study together alongside the theater. Those of you who work at GPHC will know the place that I mean. There's that area with the benches and so on. It's still there 20 years later, but that's where we used to meet to study. And as you might imagine, when we have a group of students getting together to study, there were some nights when I think we spent more time laughing and joking and chatting rather than studying. And of course, back then, as he was known, Bram, Seepersaud was known as, that's our nickname for him was Bram. Even though he has always been a very quiet, gentle person, he did have a great sense of humor, and, you know, he had a very infectious laugh. And so studying what could have been a very painful chore of studying was quite enjoyable a lot of the time because of that camaraderie that we had. And so that is my fondest personal memory of Dr. Chatterdeo. And what I would like to do now is, because of course we have quite a lot of people on, I see we now have 163 persons on the call, and I know that many people would like a chance to say something. I would just like to call on Ms. Mary Ann Harjohn. Are you on, Mary Ann? Let me see, Mary. Yes, you're muted. Ms. Mary Ann Harjohn is one of our final year medical students, and some of you might have seen a very beautiful tribute that they wrote, because of course they would have benefited from Dr. Chatterdeo was teaching for about 2 years, basically the duration of their clinical rotation at Georgetown Hospital. And so I would like to call on Marianne to read that tribute that was written by the students. And I think that tribute basically encapsulates everything, or it encapsulates the feelings and sentiments of the staff and students of the school. And so this is our tribute to Dr. Chatterdeo, and that we would like to share with his family. So Marianne, please go ahead. And if you are able, please put on your camera so that, because I don't think I mentioned, I'm recording this session so that we can share this with the family later. So if you put on your video while you're reading, then they will be able to see you as well.
I'm sorry, Dr. Gobin. At the moment, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Oh, that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Dr. Chatterdeo was a stalwart in the field of medicine. He was a giant of a man, and yet, with all his knowledge and accomplishments, he never made anyone feel small. This profound knowledge and his ability to dissect complex ideas into their core principles made him an excellent and effective teacher. His kindness, warm aura, willingness to listen, and humility made him a fantastic human. Though some may have known him prior, our first interaction with Dr. Chatterdeo as a class occurred in the 3rd year, when he assisted with the delivery of our pharmacology course. During those few months, he opened our eyes to a new way of thinking and handling difficult concepts. Whenever we responded to his questions with empty, hopeless gazes, Dr. Chatterdeo would say, "It's okay. I don't expect you to know everything. Nobody can know everything, but I'll share what I know with you." Though we were quite a few, he was the kind of lecturer that would personally inquire if he noticed any student having a difficult time. He was a source of reassurance and comfort in the chaotic years of clinical rotation for each and every student with whom he interacted. When we began rotating, he would always respond to our questions with the exact question. If we still didn't get the answer, he would give us an outline of the answer without saying it exactly. By the end of that brief interaction, you'd get the answer and smile gleefully to yourself. He'd place his hands on your shoulder and say, "I knew the answer was in you, Doc. You just need to know how to get it out." Doing wrongs with Dr. Chat was quite an experience. We all suspected that he could teleport because at one instant, you'd be presenting the progress of the patient, then in the blink of an eye, he would appear. With that same swiftness, he would double check our notes and calculations. Even if there was an error, he never made any of us feel inadequate in any way. Instead, his resolve was that this is a learning experience for us all. From then to now, his actions have consistently impressed upon us what it means to be both brilliant and humble. His genuine concern for the physical and mental health of us as students, along with his passion to bring out the best in each of us, is only a small part of what made him great. We are blessed to have been graced with the presence of such a great man. The medical fraternity has lost a treasure. The University of Guyana School of Medicine has lost a big brother and a mentor. While we weep, our prayers are with his family. May they be granted strength to maneuver this difficult time. Fond memories of him will forever be in the hearts of the UG School of Medicine graduating class of 2020. Rest well, Dr. Seepersaud, Chatterdeo. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. I just wanted to mention that Marianne's class is actually now beginning their final exams. They're the final year students, so these are the exit exams, the biggest and most important exams. And so I think it's particularly tragic for them to have such a loss, to experience such a loss at this time. In fact, their first exam in general surgery is tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. But we are we have encouraged them to try and remember what Dr. Chatterdeo would want them to do, and that is to focus on their exams, focus on doing their best and getting out of the program so that they can contribute to the health profession the way he did, and that they can help to continue improving the health of Guyanese. And so thank you to Marianne, and to reiterate the students' condolences to the family. It is, of course, a great loss for the school that coming generations of students are not going to benefit from the wonderful preceptor that Dr. Chatterdeo was. I would now like to call on Dr. Emmanuel Cummings. Okay, I see we have our VC here, Vice Chancellor.
We have Pro-Chancellor as well as the Vice Chancellor, and I think we should call on them first, Pro-Chancellor and Vice Chancellor.
Right, yes, all right. So thank you, it's difficult for me to see who's on. So I would like to call on Pro-Chancellor, our Pro-Chancellor, Brigadier General Joe Singh, to please give a few remarks. Ms.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Gobin, Director of the School of Medicine, Honorable Minister, Vice Chancellor, Dean, Dr. Cummings.
The picture you get.
And all those who are on this platform. I would like to join with you in acknowledging the great loss that the country, the university, the hospitals, the students, the patients, and all those who were part of his world. At this time, of course, we remember first and foremost his family. Parents, no parent expected their son will pass away before them, and therefore our hearts go out to our parents, to his dear wife, his children, his siblings, and all those close relatives. And we hope that his physical presence, though not there, that they will see his spirit and experience the closeness days after he would have been interred. Those of us who've lost loved ones, and I believe all of us here would have lost loved ones, know that there's a big hole. It's not easy to fill. And while words of comfort and words of encouragement are understood and appreciated, when we leave, and you return to your home, the home of the bereaved, then it's a different ball game. So I hope that tonight, in some way, and especially since it's being recorded, the tributes which we've read in the newspapers, which we've seen on the social media, and which we're listening to tonight, will in a sense compensate for not being able to say goodbye, because obviously his death was something not anticipated, and therefore he didn't get to say farewell, and we didn't get to say farewell to him. But on behalf of the Chancellor, with whom I spoke just about an hour ago, he expressed his condolences and his regret that he would not be able to join us because of another commitment. But he joins us in saying to the relatives, to colleagues, the students, and all those who saw him as a mentor, as a teacher, as a friend, that he and his family shares their grief, and hope that his character and what he stood for, his humanity, his magnanimity, his caring, as well as his infectious humor, and all the things that many of you would remember about him, that all of these things will remind us of who he was, what he did in service to humanity, what he did in service particularly to children, and the parents of those children, some of whom are remarked in the media today on how he would call at different, didn't matter what time in the night, but he was always there, a responsive person and someone who's very proactive. I commiserate with his colleagues, Dean Cummings and all those from the School of Medicine, and all those students, especially those who were in their final year exams, and hope that they will live up to his expectations and what he expected of them, so that his loss will be replaced by many others who will seek to follow in his footsteps, set an example, and to be the same kind of individual that we are honoring tonight. So on behalf of myself and my family, on behalf of the Council of the University, I would like to extend our sincere condolences to his family and all of us, all of those who mourn his loss, but we look forward to others who will take up the mantle and help to move not only our health services, but also our university and our students and those who will, seek to follow in his. So thank you very much for offering me the opportunity, and I look forward to listening to other tributes as they come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pro-Chancellor, for those moving words. I would like to call now on our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Paloma Mohamed-Martin, to say a few words. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gobin, Pro-Chancellor, Ministers, DVC, Emmanuel, Cummings, and others on the call, especially students, family members, loved ones of Dr. Chatterdeo. The university joins with you all in sadly mourning the sudden and perhaps needless loss of this wonderful human being. Being a doctor is a very, very special thing, and every year when we graduate our doctors, the country stands on its feet in elation and admiration, and not without cause, because while this is the only profession in the world in which you spend 4 years and you're called a doctor, it is, we recognize, the hardest road for most people to follow, and that most people begin it and never are able to succeed. So when we graduate a doctor, when we take in a student who is aspiring to be a doctor, the hopes and dreams and aspirations of their families, us as teachers, the country, and the patients that they would never see in the future are poured into that person.
Amen.
And so if the person falls, as this wonderful young man has fallen long before their time, it pains us greatly. And the university can only offer words of consolation to his family, to his children, to his wife, that your son, your brother, your husband, your father, your cousin, your friend, your teacher was a tall tree that we treasured and was loved, and who was respected, and who made the short time he spent on this earth count. We cannot do more but to say we thank you for the time that you offered him to us at the university, to our students, the time that we spent with him teaching and learning, and the time he spent taking care of this nation's children. We will pray that his goodness will fall upon the shoulders of his own children and the family. And we leave you with our deepest words of condolences. He will not be forgotten for us, and may he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, VC. I would like now to call on Dr. Emmanuel Cummings, who is our Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic Engagement, formerly Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, a lecturer within the School of Medicine, and so he has been teacher and mentor and colleague to Dr. Chatterdeo. So Dr. Cummings, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gobin. It's very difficult for me to speak, but I'll try. A pleasant good evening to our Pro-Chancellor, Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Ministers of Government. I want to also recognize, I was looking at the names on the list and I saw D-Raj Reddy. Anyone know who D-Raj Reddy is? He's one of our medical graduates from New Zealand.
But I can't see them.
Right, he's from New Zealand. He was one of our medical graduates from New Zealand. And he's here on the call, and it shows you the extent to where the services and the knowledge that Dr. Chad Gibbon has gone to. I've also recognized in the chat the names, Dr. Kamala Sanasi, now a gastroenterologist. She no longer lives in Guyana. I think she's in the US. I noticed her there as well. She was our best graduating student. I also, right, among others, of course, I do recognize everyone, but I just want to make special mention to those individuals because we don't see them in Guyana. We have not seen them here for a long time, but just want to show how far Dr. Chatterdeo work has gone, knowledge has extended. Now, I must say that if you allow me just to reflect on my interaction with this noble gentleman. You know, I came to know Dr. Chatterdeo when he registered for an associate degree in pharmacy somewhere in the 90s, around early 90s. And there were many other of his colleagues like Cheetaman and all of those and Vindi. Right? And there and in those days I used to teach homeostasis to the pharmacy students, and so that's where I came in contact with Dr. Chatterdeo when he came to the University Health Sciences School at the time to read for an associate degree in pharmacy, and from the beginning we developed a very good relationship. That later on, when he came back to pursue a degree in medicine, we were already known to each other. And because I knew the potential he had, you know, and I wish to share this, and there are times when I might be at a meeting and I can't afford to teach, and I would say, Chat, can you teach this class for me? And he was always willing to do that. So as a medical student, he was assisting me to teach. And so you see why he turned out to be a great teacher, because I recognized that very early while he was a student, the ability that he had. And so I exposed him at a very early stage in his career as a teacher. And he was always, and I can tell you, I've been teaching biochemistry for so many years, and I've always said to myself, the only person I think who's capable, I'm not saying many other persons are not, would have been Dr. Chatterdeo. Very skillful. He turned it out, he ended up being a pediatrician, but I think I could have called on him at any time to say, look, come and teach a class of biochemistry, molecular medicine. And he was capable of doing that. And that was the depth of the man. He's been a successful clinician, a pediatrician, a lot has been said about that. But I also want to say, as we pay tribute to this outstanding academic, this outstanding clinician, that he was also quite capable in teaching the basic sciences, which sometimes is difficult for us to find persons to teach. And that was one of the outstanding traits that he would have had. And you know, a lot of said in terms of his personality. It's been all over the social media. I want to endorse all of that. You know, you know, in life we come across several persons, and so, and when I heard about the passing of Bram, we'd call him sometime, I tried to reflect on all my engagements with him, and it's been more than 25 years of engagement, and I cannot recall any time when I ever saw him being angry. I cannot recall any time when he would say anything negative about any individual. And so everything that has been said about him on social media, it's 100% correct. He was more than a physician. He was indeed someone that anyone could have called upon at any time to provide advice, to have to listen to whatever issues they may have, and also to provide some sort of comfort. I also wish to say that also his wife was also in that class, and so I taught both himself and his wife. And I want to suspect that's where he met his wife while he was reading for the associate degree in pharmacy. And so, and I really did admire the manner in which they both developed. And the last time I saw him actually was at the mall. He was in the company of his wife and his two children, and they were having a meal. Not knowing that that would have been the last time. And of course, we had a chat. We spent about 10, 15 minutes. He was having, he was having his meal with his family. But he was such a courteous, and that he left that and he came over and we chatted for about, and I said, man, you need to go back and continue. But that's the type of respect. He respected others, and also a person respected him. And those are some of the things. And so I think the University of Guyana is in a much better place. Guyana as a whole is in a much better place because of the life that this doctor has lived. He has taught many things for us. And I think the greatest tribute that we can ever pay to Seepersaud Chatterdeo is to do a lot of the things that he has taught us, to be humble, to be loving, to care for others, not only for the sick, but also for the healthy as well, for his colleagues, for all of his students, and everyone that came in contact with him. And that's not an easy trait to see these days. And so I think that's one of the greatest tributes that we can pay to him, because certainly he would like us. He came into this world, and we and all of us, in our interaction with people, we leave certain traits, and that is something which I would have learned from him, and I'm certain all of us would have been able to learn that from Dr. Seepersaud Chatterdeo, that we often refer to as Bram. And so I can be long, but I wouldn't want to take up much more time, but to express my sincere condolences to his dear wife, his children, on behalf of the university, on behalf of the faculties, of all the deans, all the faculties, despite the fact that he only embraced the Faculty of Health Sciences, which is now the College of Medical Sciences, the School of Medicine. But certainly his loss is not just a loss to the college or the faculty, but it's a loss to the entire university. At the time of his death, he served as an assistant professor in pediatrics. And I can recall that even though he was in pediatrics, he also found time to go and teach pharmacology to the pharmacy students. And also to help me out to say, well, look, to do a little class in biochemistry or in molecular medicine. And so it's a loss to all of us. And we do, and I will not say goodbye. I will say goodnight, because we do hope that we will meet again somewhere. We will meet again. And we want to thank God for his life. His life has made the School of Medicine a better place, the University of Guyana, the medical profession, the practice of pediatrics, and I dare to say that Dr. Chatterdeo, together with Dr. Bowman, were the first locally trained pediatricians in this country. The first, and when we start, and that is something which we started with the University of Toronto. I don't know if Singh is on the call, and we decided, you know, that because of his prior experience in the field, himself and Dr. Bowman, they were given advanced standing, and so they then became the tutors, the teachers for all those 20-something pediatricians that we now have in the country. So despite his life was short, you know, when we think about persons like Che Guevara and Martin Luther King and Camilo Cienfuegos, all of these men that lived very short lives, but their contribution was significant. And so despite his short life, I would dare to say that Dr. Chatterdeo's contribution to this world, to this life, was quite significant. And may his soul rest in peace and rise in the glory.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cummings. I just wanted to check whether we have Dr. David Samaru on the call as the clinical coordinator. I don't see him on. So what I would like to do then is now to call on Dr. Clive Bowman. I see Dr. Bowman is on the call, and I know that Dr. Bowman worked very closely with Dr. Chatterdeo for many years. And so if Dr. Bowman is willing.
Okay, good night, everyone. Indeed, this is a very sad occasion for me. I was floored when I got a call on Sunday morning, shortly after arriving at church to deliver my sermon, to get a call saying that Dr. Chatterdeo had just died. And I was floored because I never expected something like that to happen. And I'd like to take this opportunity to offer my condolences to his wife, children, other relatives, and to encourage all of us to continue holding on. I know it's a great loss to many of us because of the impact that he has had on our lives. My first interaction with Dr. Chatterdeo is when he started his clinical rotation at the Georgetown Hospital. I was the principal tutor of pediatrics at the time. And so I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Chatterdeo as a student in his undergraduate years. And then when he started working in the Department of Pediatrics as a medical officer, I was at the department. We had a very close working relationship. And he was very supportive. I must say, he's been my student. He has been a member of the staff of the department that I headed at the time. And I also
Dr. Bowman, your mic is muted.
yeah, sorry about that. He never called me Dr. Bowman. He always regarded me as chief. And even when I relinquished the position as head of the department in 2017, he took over, he always referred to me as chief, even though he was the head of the department. And that shows something about his humility. He was always willing, and in recent times, I had to call in his services on occasions when I was not able to attend to patients who were under my care. I remember distinctly a few weeks ago, in the wee hours of the morning, he was called out to attend to a patient that was under my care. The next day when I asked him, how much is your fee? He said, Doc, I wouldn't charge for that. And that was the type of person that Dr. Chatterdeo was. And so this is a great loss to me personally. And I hope that we can all get over it. It's going to be missed, but these are things that occur in life, and we can all only hold on to the memories that we have and continue to view them in a positive way. And in spite of the loss, I am sure that good things will continue to come out from our school. And so I want to stop there and once more to say to his wife, kids, and family, and to the entire pediatric community, medical community, and the school at large, that we'll miss him, but let us continue doing the work that he will want us to do so that we can continue to progress. So thank you for your time to speak. God bless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bowman. I would now like to call on Dr. Areefa Alladin, who actually, as I mentioned before, was the principal tutor for pediatrics in the School of Medicine and then went off to study, and Dr. Chatterdeo agreed to take on that responsibility just to facilitate her. So Dr. Areefa Alladin.
Thank you, Dr. Gobin. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the members of government, the Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellors, students of the University of Guyana, other faculty members, and I see my friends and colleagues from GPHC are on as well. Dr. Chatterdeo and I went back a far, far way. I started pediatric residency in 2013 and developed a law for medical education during my residency. We usually don't call him Dr. Chatterdeo, we call him Chats. So Chats taught me as a medical student and also as an intern, but my real bond with him developed when my son was born. He was Liam's pediatrician, and during his first months of life, I realized that caring for children is the most rewarding career choice, as Dr. Chatterdeo showed me in such a simple, easy way how much joy kids can bring to you as a pediatrician. I saw him interact with my son in such a gentle way and so natural. He had stickers and lollipops and toys, and Liam would volunteer to go to clinic for vaccines so that he can see Dr. Chatterdeo because he gets rewards. That's how you know a great pediatrician, when kids volunteer to go see their doctors. As a lecturer, he was always calm and systematic in his approach. His teaching style was quite unique. He had a little bit of old school teaching mixed with a lot of evidence-based medicine. He will tell you what used to be done, and then he will bring the new literature in and he will tell you what is done, even if we don't do it. I always wondered, how does he remember things that we don't ever practice in Guyana? But he had a way of remembering these things. He was quite instrumental in transforming the pediatric course into the modern day board-style exam. Under his leadership, our program was consecutively rated best by students and external examiners. And I know the surgeons are on, but yes, pediatrics was one of the best programs out there for the undergraduate school. We got accreditation during that time as well. And he continued to dedicate a lot of time and energy into revising his OSCE style. And he taught me how to set OSCEs and how to set exams as well. There are some experiences that stay with you for life, and Dr. Chatterdeo and I had developed a very close bond. I remember how he sat with me on the stairs in front of ICU. And he cradled me like a baby when my husband died. Every time I would cry and I would break down, he would say, "You can do this. There are reasons why you need to go on." He was very spiritual. He had a lot of empathy and compassion. And my bond with him grew stronger than being a lecturer, being a colleague, but being someone that I could turn to when I needed advice and I needed that help. He spoiled Liam like a father would spoil a son, and time to time he would bring toys for him. I remember when Liam went to his clinic once, he brought a transformer toy for him. And then he asked him about another one, and he said, "Okay, for Christmas, you're going to get that." And months later, he remembered and he brought it. He was like, "I promised Liam I will bring this toy for him for Christmas," and he did. He said to me, "You need to get him enrolled in karate, swimming, and piano," and Liam has been enrolled in all of that. He's guided me in so many other ways. He stepped down from Pharmacy and Therapeutics Board at GPHC and said, "Areefa, I'm putting you there now," and I somehow managed to replace him bit by bit in his areas. At some point, he convinced me that I should become principal tutor, that I have proven myself and he's going to be there, but he needed to step down and focus on his studies. I don't know how many of you know, but he was pursuing his PhD studies and he was trying to clear up some schedule for him to focus more on his work. I reluctantly accepted this after having multiple discussions with Dr. Bowman about his opinion of me. When I got accepted into fellowship, I told him that I would like to pursue this and that if he can hold the fort for me until I return. And he said, "You know, I'm very proud of you, Areefa, congratulations, and I will do whatever it takes. We will be able to do this together." And he was there. He was there and he continued to be there until the end. The students still had classes with him, he interacted and he was supportive. I would like the students to know that we as a Department of Pediatrics GPHC will continue to emulate his style and his commitment to medical education in Guyana. His knowledge, his experiences that we've gotten from him will live on with us. And the best thing about being a teacher is that you are never forgotten. The amount of lives that you impact, it will continue for years and years. And I know that we have all of the chancellors and pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors from the University of Guyana here, and I'd like to suggest that we name the annual the Pediatrics Award for the best graduating medical student in the Department of Pediatrics, the Dr. Seepersaud Chatterdeo Award, coming from this final year exam. The students who are on, you have a challenge. Now you can work towards earning that exam. You have about a month. And we can discuss this further. I'd like to take personal responsibility for this award. I convinced myself that God needed a pediatrician in heaven in this pandemic, so he took the best one out there. And that is just another transformation. And I know his family, they're on, I have been through this path, and somehow it gets easier with time. It makes more sense, as Dr. Bowman once said to me, "Areefa, don't try to think about it now, things will make sense later on." I don't know how true that is, but I'm still here. So with that, I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alladin, for the very stirring tribute. I think from the perspective of the school, we definitely hear you about honoring Dr. Chatterdeo's legacy and memory by establishing that award in his name. And so it is something that I will discuss with the relevant authorities at the university so that we can put that into action. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to call on someone who is actually not a member of the medical fraternity or the School of Medicine, but who nevertheless had a close relationship, professional, and I think also as a friend with Dr. Chatterdeo. And I'm speaking here about Dr. Karishma Jeeboo, who is the head of the pharmacy program at UG. As I mentioned before, and as others have mentioned, Dr. Chatterdeo, of course, obtained his degree in pharmacy before he started medicine. And so, and he helped to teach in the pharmacy program as well. So I would just like now to hand you over to Dr. Karishma Jeeboo.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gobin. Can you hear me? My internet is fluctuating, so I hope
We're
that you can.
We're hearing you.
All right,
we're hearing
great.
You.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Minister, the Pro-Chancellor, Vice Chancellors, colleagues from the College of Medical Sciences. Good evening to you all. Indeed, the School of Pharmacy joins with the family and friends in mourning the loss of Dr. Seepersaud Chatterdeo. You know, over the last 24 hours, quite a few pharmacists have reached out to me, whom he would have taught, and, you know, to share of how much of a loss it is, his passing is to them, and their own experiences that they would have had with him while he taught them. Dr. Chatterdeo was a part-time lecturer. He was a tutor, and also he supervised their attachment in the School of Pharmacy at UG for many years. During the period specifically 2005 to just around 2009, and then again when I became head, when I reached out to Dr. Chatterdeo in 2013, he willingly said, you know, that he would teach in the School of Pharmacy. You know, he was a remarkable, the short time I've known him, he's a remarkable and exceptional human being. He made invaluable deposits into the academic and personal lives of our students. He offered career guidance to many of our pharmacists, and including myself. You know, when I decided to further my own studies, Dr. Chatterdeo was one of the persons I reached out to, you know, to ask of his guidance. And so he offered that. He was always willing to lend a helping hand whenever, you know, it was needed. Like I said, when I became head of the school, and I knew that he was quite busy, I was the School of Medicine and also in his own practice, but he said yes. And he came on and he taught pharmacotherapeutics. He taught clinical and community pharmacy during the period of 2013 to 2015. Before then, however, he taught many courses in the pharmacy program, pharmacy calculations. He taught homeostasis at one point, pharmacotherapeutics, pharmacology, you know, as the pharmacist would have shared with me. And so it's a great loss, you know, to pharmacists across the length and breadth of Guyana. Personally, many of them know even their children, you know, he's their children's pediatrician. And so it's indeed a great loss to not only the medical fraternity, but also the pharmacy fraternity. And so the School of Pharmacy wishes to extend our deepest condolences to his wife, Indra, who is also a pharmacist like us, his children, the relatives, friends. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jeeboo. I would like now to call on Dr. Hardat Persaud, who is, as everyone knows, also quite an eminent pediatrician and a mentor to a lot of our younger pediatricians. So Dr. Hardat Persaud. Okay, I'm not sure if Dr. Hardat Persaud has his mic muted, but in the meanwhile, I see that Dr. Alexandra Harvey is on. And Dr. Harvey is the director of the Institute for Health health education at GPHC, and basically therefore the head of the residency programs. So Dr. Harvey, if you are still there.
You can hear me? Good night, everyone. Good night, all. Well, I'm actually still in quite shock when I heard of Dr. Chatterdeo's passing. I guess like many of us here. And of course, at these times, we do look and look back and think about our interactions. And this is what I've been doing, because I was wondering why it actually affected me as much as it has affected me. And I think it's because over the years that I've known Dr. Chatterdeo, it was, he just always came across as very, I'd almost call him a gentle bear. Maybe it's because I think the first time that I really encountered him was, in the late 90s when we're trying to set up the intensive care units, get things going there. And it was times when, we didn't have a lot of things, but we're still trying to do a lot of things. And I remember this first time because I had seen him around. I saw many young doctors around coming into this new environment, this new ICU. Most didn't know what was really, going on. And it was sort of a lonely time because a lot of people didn't know about ICU. And I was actually trying to set up, we call it an arterial line, a little bit technical thing with some transducers and a lot of tubings and so on. But I said we didn't have the right things, but I was making do. And it was like, you got to join this part to that part and another part, and what would I use? And then as I was, over the patient, I saw somebody hovering, but people usually hovered and then moved on. But this person he moved on and he come back, and I saw he moved on, he come back, and then he's still staying. And then he suddenly said, "Doc, maybe you could put this part there." So I looked up and I saw this young doctor there. And I said, "Oh, you're working in what?" He said, "Peds doc." I said, "Well, what's your name again?" He said, "The Chatterdeo." I said, "That's nice of you, because let me try it." And from then on, what really has struck me with Dr. Chatterdeo was that he was just interested. He was interested, studious, and he would help. Yeah? And to me, from that first encounter, it just showed the way he was. He just very quietly, he was just watching, and he was seeing what I was trying to do. And actually made a contribution. And then he hadn't started the specialty, and then when we were going to start specialties, it was as somebody has mentioned already, he and Dr. Bowman, they were one of the first entrants into the pediatric specialist program, the Master in Medicine in Pediatrics. And I had thought, well, who's going to do this pediatrics? And they said, well, Dr. Chatterdeo and Dr. Bowman. And I said, Dr. Chatterdeo, like he's really sticking with this pediatrics, because I'd never actually seen him with the children. Yeah. But then when I thought about it, I said, but this guy, the same qualities that I was seeing, you know, him being very simple, very gentle. He doesn't even raise his voice or shout or anything like that. This is how he deals with his children, that is as his patients. And even up to now, actually today, let's say it's not just the medical fraternity at all that has been very much affected by his passing. I had a workman who was at my home today, and I was asking about something to do with the work he'd come to do, and he said, no, Doc, what I just want to ask you about, said, Dr. Chatterdeo. And I says, yeah? He says, you know, he looked after my children. He looked after all my children, you know. So, and I saw how this thing really had affected him. As I say, not just the medical fraternity, as people said, it's all those who have been touched by all that he has done on this earth. So I would just like to say to his wife, who I don't know, but who I've seen every time I would see Dr. Chatterdeo, and just about a month or two ago, I saw him again outside of the hospital and medical environment. I'd see him usually he would be with his family, whether it is his wife or his children. His daughter is going to the same school as my son. He's always there with them. And I would just like, if I may, say to them that if they could take whatever comfort they can by the fact that he is well remembered, and he will be well remembered by, I think, all who really were part of his life, and who were touched by his life. And again, I say, if you can take comfort in that as a wife, as a son, as a daughter, that to know that your husband or your father will be well remembered in our Guyanese community and abroad. So I just like to end by saying, no, rest in peace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harvey. Okay, I would just now like to call Dr. Hardat Persaud. I think he is now ready with his mic and so on.
I had to switch technology. Good evening, everyone. I'm really shocked because I didn't expect this to happen. It's a great honor for me to have touched the life of Dr. Chatterdeo and the lives of so many others, doctors, students, and the wider population. As many of you might have known, I was his teacher in pediatrics, and at that time, it was basically me alone. The groups weren't big, but those students were so wonderful, they made my job so easy. I always used to say that it's not because you're a pediatrician that makes you so cool, and I tell the students that before any exam, that it is because you're a cool person that makes you go into pediatrics. Dr. Seeps, I call him Seeps and he calls me Chief. We never discuss philosophy, but I'm sure that he adheres to a very well-known Chinese proverb, which says that always make your words sweet in case you have to eat them one day. And that's quite correct. What Emmanuel said, that he's never heard him raise his voice, never heard him get out of stride. He was always calm, collective. He was always very friendly. I really enjoyed going to the Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Pediatrics with him. It was a great shock to me to hear that he passed on. There's also another very wise saying that death is more pervasive than life. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. There are lots of people who live and don't leave a mark. They just, you know, pass through life like that. Chats is one of those that lived because he's left a deep mark, not only in us, but the wider population, in the students. And I quite agree that we should somehow immortalize his name in one way or the other. I know there are a lot of people who would like to say something tonight, so I won't be long. I would like to convey my condolences of my family and my other colleagues who are not on the chat right now, but who know him very well. Farewell, chats. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hardat. Okay, I would now like to call on Dr. Ronald Aaron. I see Dr. Aaron. He joined us a bit late, but Dr. Aaron is the former director of the School of Medicine. And I basically assumed the position after he went on sabbatical leave. And so Dr. Aaron was actually the director for the past 3 years while Dr. Chatterdeo was teaching. And so I would just like to give Dr. Aaron an opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Gobin. Am I being heard?
I want to see that fire emoji. I want to see that fire emojis lighting up.
Yes, Dr. Aaron, we're hearing
heard?
you. We're hearing you.
Okay, great.
I have to mute
okay,
some other
thank you.
people.
Yes, thank you. A very good night to everyone. It came as really sad and shocking news to learn of Dr. Chatterdeo's passing. Dr. Chatterdeo, I call him Chats. Chats is one, or has been one of the gentlest persons you could ever interact with. He spoke in just above a whisper, was always pleasant, and always had a smile on his face. Chats called me Chief, as I know he called several other persons. And 99% of the times when we spoke either face-to-face or via telephone, before even saying hello to me or good day, his first words would always be, how can I help? And that is very characteristic of Chats. He was always out to help, always willing to help, always willing to lend a hand. And
franchising?
And I have to say that a gentle giant has fallen. Dr. Chatterdeo did well in his academics and his professional life. He was a true professional, displayed a lot of empathy in his dealings with his patients and their loved ones, their significant others. And he has left many lessons for us. And as someone said earlier, our best tribute to Chats would be to walk the path that he walked as a professional, as a medical professional, as a friend, as a teacher, and as a family man. The nation is poorer for his loss. The nation of Guyana is poorer for his loss. May I take this opportunity, don't want to be very long, take this opportunity to extend my deepest condolences on behalf of myself and family to the immediate and extended family of Chats, to professional colleagues and friends on his passing. Chats, rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Aaron. I'm about to reach the more formal part of the evening, and I just wanted to say that I did say on the invitation 7 to 9, but that was just more or less to give people an idea of a time frame. We do not have to stop at 9 because we currently have 222 participants on the call, which I think is an amazing tribute in and of itself to the kind of person Dr. Chatterdeo was. I see we have persons here, not just from the medical fraternity, not just from the academic sphere within which he worked, but also persons from just general society, friends. And for example, I see we had a message recently from the Karate Association of Guyana and so on. So you know, that is a testament to just how wide-reaching Dr. Chatterdeo's influence was. Now, what I would like to do next is to call on Dr. Narendra Singh. I believe he's here. I'm calling on Dr. Singh because, as I mentioned before, he was one of our overseas colleagues who helped to establish the Master of Medicine program, and Dr. Chatterdeo was one of the first graduates of that program. So, and Dr. Singh is currently in Canada. So if I could just ask Dr. Singh to please say a few words.
Dr. Gobin, can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Great. First of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to you for organizing this evening. When I heard about the very sad news yesterday, both myself and my wife were devastated because we know Chats quite intimately. I want to recognize the dignitaries from the university and the government that are online tonight. And if there are any family members that are on the call as well, I'd like to extend my condolences to them. I've had the distinct pleasure of meeting Chats probably more than 10 years ago. And I've been living in Canada for about more than 45 years. So when I first came back to Guyana to explore the possibility of starting the pediatric postgraduate residency program, I engaged two main people. One is Dr. Bowman, who's on the line tonight, and Dr. Chatterdeo. Both of them were very enthusiastic about getting the program off the ground. I'm a bit bipolar. Sometimes I call him Seeps, sometimes I call him Chats. And he would answer to both of those things. I remember, you know, he was very instrumental in helping me to set up the pediatric postgraduate curriculum that was not only geared towards what we learn here in Canada or in the United States, but also specific to some of the illnesses that we see in Guyana. So both Dr. Bowman and Dr. Seepersaud helped us to set that up. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. I remember going with him on rounds on the pediatric ward in the NICU and having didactic sessions and, you know, asking questions. And he would be the last to answer. And the reason that he would be last to answer is not because he didn't know, it's because he wanted the others to answer first. And there were many times when I thought, you know, he knew the answer, but he just wanted to give his colleagues an opportunity to answer. And ultimately, if they didn't answer, he did. And there were so many times I thought, you know what? He knew as much as I did. And in some cases, he knew more than I did. But he was such a giant of a humble man that he did not impose that knowledge on me or anyone for that matter. And I always respected him for that. The last time I saw him was last year at the American Academy of Pediatrics. I was walking with my wife and my son, and his wife. We're all pediatricians. It's very boring. And all of a sudden I hear chief out loud. And I turn around and there was there was Dr. Seepersaud, impeccably dressed with a suit and tie, and I had jeans and t-shirt at the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I turned around and I looked at him, and it was Seeps that was there. And here it is, I'm thinking that I'm one of the few people that he called chief, but that's not true. He called so many people chief out of sheer respect and humility. So that's the kind of person that I knew Seeps to be. You know, when I stepped back from teaching in the pediatric postgraduate residency program, and I handed much of it over to him and Dr. Sparman and Dr. Bowman, I really felt that it was in great hands because he was a phenomenal educator. And so this is really, really a significant loss. When I mentioned to my wife last night that Dr. Seepersaud had passed away, she remembered vividly that she was actually his examiner on the final exam of the pediatric postgraduate residency program. And he was extremely knowledgeable. He was extremely bright. And one of the comments that she came out of the exam and she said to me, she said, no, and this guy would be a star wherever he goes, whether it be in Guyana or Canada or the United States, UK, because he was just brilliant. And that's what I remember about Seeps. He was just a giant of a human being, but still very, very humble. I want to extend my condolences on behalf of my wife, who knew him well as well, to his family, to the medical fraternity, to the university. This is a huge loss to all of us, including Guyana. So, Dr. Gobin, thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh. I would now like to call on our Honorable Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Persaud, who, of course, as I mentioned before, was known to us as Vindi. And I know she has had shared quite a large portion of her life with Dr. Chatterdeo. And also, while Dr. Vindhya will give her tribute, I know that she also has just a few memories that we were able to get from Dr. Chatterdeo's sister. As I said before, the family are understandably not, up to actually speaking and so on this evening, but his sister, Mohalani, put together a few memories on her part, and Dr. Vindhya will share those with us as well. So, Dr. Vindhya, over to you.
Thank you, Reeta. Thank you, Dr. Gobin. Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, colleagues all, family, friends, those who are mourning the loss of Dr. Chatterdeo, who I always called Brahm because that's the name we gave him in medical school. Sometimes we take privileges we don't have, but he always, as he was wont to do, he answered in his usual cheerful way. And listening to all of you pay tribute to someone that I knew perhaps a little differently from a lot of you brings back vivid memories to me of a person who influenced, but yet seemed not to, in his quiet, unassuming way. He was one of those rare individuals who was able to listen, and that's something that is extremely, extremely rare because not many people can listen and hear and give you the kind of sound advice you might need from time to time. But he was one of those. Perhaps in our group, he would be the one to say the least and the one to be able to articulate what you wanted to hear the best. I remember in medical school, I was the only girl who studied with 5 boys, and he was one of those 5 boys in medical school who I considered to be my brothers, and he remained one of those brothers way past medical school. Though we both went to Queen's College, I got to know him better at the University of Guyana, where we pursued studies in pharmacy, and we developed that kind of relationship from then. that followed us all the way to and past medical school. And I remember him as having a really, really terrific sense of humor. And Reeta alluded to that, where we would sit in random places, as students are wont to do, on campus. And in the midst of studying, we would come up with something, you know, sorry lecturers who are listening, but sometimes you were the butt of our jokes too. And we would have a really great time just laughing and sharing stories and experiences. And that got us through the long nights and the difficult period of study. But I think more than getting through the study mode and getting through all those challenging years in med school and in pharmacy, I think what we were building were lifelong bonds of friendship. And Bram, as we called him, was very admired, not only because of his quiet brilliance, but because of the humility that he carried so unassumingly on his shoulders. He was humble, he was simple, and that remained no matter the heights that he achieved later on in life. And listening to everyone and seeing so many of you here tonight, it just brings home forcibly to me how much our country has become poorer for his passing, how much the medical fraternity has lost, and how much we as a country would have lost in so many ways because an educator has passed on. And when someone educates and gives of themselves so freely in so many different ways to so many different students, I think the generations to come will lose not having the access to someone like Bram or Dr. Chatterdeo, as so many of you call him. I was able to, after medical school, attend his wedding, and then I watched him father two wonderful children, perhaps as bright as he is or was. And this ensured that their family tradition continued, because his sister too was also very brilliant at Queen's College. And it clearly showed that Bram put a lot of emphasis on education and achievement while wanting his children to be well-rounded. And if you listen to those who spoke before me, he also encouraged them to have their children grow up as well-rounded individuals. Because while he was, I would say, inherently an academic and someone who was able to educate and a phenomenal practitioner of medicine and then later pediatrics, he was a well-rounded, well-read individual. And in addition to all of those areas, he was part of the Guyana Hindu Dharmic Sabha's Dharmic Ramakrishna School Board, where he was able to give valuable advice and guidance on various aspects of our school. And he will be tremendously missed by us on that board for all the insight and all the experience and expertise he was able to bring. And the reason that he was on the school board, as I asked him, and I always remember him as someone who never was able to say no to anything. He always smiled and he said, sure. And even if you called him in the middle of the night or at random times in the day and said to him, I want to bounce a few ideas off of you, or I want to have a few minutes of your time, those discussions that ensued would be very lengthy ones. And from a few ideas, we would have some excellent initiatives emerging from it. He also was a judge at the Guyana Hindu Dharmic Sabha's Diwali motorcade for a number of years. And again, he had that way of just being able to sum it up competently and be invaluable there too, to guide the other judges sometimes when they needed guidance, and was able to very seemingly not imposing anything, but quickly able to pull them together so that they can get the results going, because he was very sharp at his calculation. So for me, it is not only the loss of a colleague and a friend and someone who served in so many ways, but it's the deep loss of a brother. And it hit, I think, all of us who knew him for so many years extremely, extremely hard. And on behalf of my class from the University of Guyana School of Medicine and from a year or two in pharmacy, I would like to say that you have gone, but you will be remembered. You will never be forgotten, because you were so much a part of a life that we shared, a time that we share, memories that we built, and a fraternity that we continue to treasure. So tonight, I had to muster everything up in myself to be able to speak, because it is heartbreaking to think that someone, I suppose, that we always thought would be around, someone who is one of our peers, is no longer with us. And that also brings home to us the fragility of life. But I think he has left for his family, for his children, and for all those who consider themselves to be part of his loved one's circle, excellent footprints in the sand. He has left a towering persona for you to emulate, and he has left everything for you to aspire to be. And the greatest tribute and honor that you can pay to someone like that, who I would say has been a trailblazer for his family and the pride of his mother and father, is to exceed his expectations. And while you might not be biologically related to him, I think as students and as those in the medical fraternity, it speaks volumes when people from every strata of society and every background has something good to see. Not many people can have that in your life. Not many people can have the kind of commentary that I've heard this evening and I've seen on social media in such a short time. So I think he has lived well, and he's left a legacy that will never be forgotten. And I do hope that something can be done at the School of Medicine to remember him, to pay tribute to what he would have contributed specifically to the School of Medicine and to the lives of so many students. To my brother, to my friend, to my colleague, I say, may your soul find an eternal resting place with the Lord, and may your memories live on with all of us, so that we can continue to be inspired, to aspire, and to be, even if a tiny bit like you, because the world will be a better place for that. I again extend my condolences, my love, and my prayers to his family, especially his wife Indra, his children, his sister Mohelani, and all of the family members at this time, and to all of his loved ones, giving you, I hope, through my prayers, love, light, and strength to face the difficult ordeal of a loss as tremendous as this. As Reeta had alluded to earlier, I will just read some thoughts sent by his sister Mohelani Chatterdeo, and these are just thoughts that she put together, so I'll try to, in my own way, express them on her behalf. And here we go. Growing up, he and her brother took turns being our Saturday afternoon chef. She recalls him making fried rice, chow mein, macaroni, Spanish rice, creamed potatoes, and pot roasted chicken. Now, she said they're both excellent cooks, but the way this is written, I think one outshone the other. Saturdays were busy days for their parents at the border market, and her brothers wanted to ensure that they came home to a warm meal already cooked. And it didn't stop there. During Christmas and August holidays, they all helped out at the market. One Christmas, and these are her words, Mom and Dad allowed my brothers to run a small stall of their own. Those were the 80s, when peanut butter and mixed fruits were sold loose. And she comments on her big brother. That QC bright boy was never ashamed to be selling at a stall. As a brother, he was a pillar upon which his younger brother and sister could stand tall even in these, our grown years. Mohelani goes on to say, no matter how hard a week he had, he always made time to take the children to the cinema on the weekends. And I suppose she's speaking about his own children. And she continues, while Indra had oversight for schoolwork with the children, he made sure he carved out time for deep conversations aimed at not only bonding, but building self-esteem and developing their critical and analytical thinking capabilities. In essence, he wanted them to be daddy's children because he had those capabilities. He ensured that Christmas, birthdays, and their wedding anniversary were lovingly celebrated. So these are just some of the thoughts, I suppose, that she would have penned through her grief on the brother that she loved. Again, my heart, my condolences, my sympathy, and my prayers to the entire family. Thank you for allowing me to say these few words.
Thank you, Dr. Persaud. And of course, thanks to Mohalani, even though she isn't present, for taking some time out to put those few words together, just so that we can know that the family is the family does appreciate all of your tributes. When I told her that we were planning to have this event, she said that she's so grateful that we are able to do this because understandably at the moment, you know, they are not in any frame of mind to actually set up something like this. And unfortunately, because of the entire COVID situation, you know, we can't pay our respects in person. So this kind of virtual meeting, virtual tribute that we're having is something that they really, really appreciate. And I hope that they will get some comfort when they when they review the recording of this session, so that they can see all the wonderful thoughts that are being shared about Dr. Chatterdeo. I would now like to do my last formal invitation to someone, and then after that, we will open the floor for anyone else who would like to speak. And what I would like for you to do, please, in order, we have 224 persons on the call. So in order to keep things manageable, I would just like to ask, if you wish to speak, to raise your hand. There is the option in Zoom for you to do that, to raise your hand, or, you know, in some other way, just indicate there are reactions at the bottom where you have the clapping and the thumbs up, and then you have the check marks and so on if someone asks the question. So just indicate in whatever way you're able to, and I will call you in order of how you indicate to say a few words. But before we go to that that segment, as it were, of tonight's program, I would like to call on Dr. Ramesh Sugrim, who has very kindly offered to sing Harjohn for us. Dr. Sugrim, I know, was recently quite ill himself, and so I'm very happy that, you know, he made a full recovery and he's able to be here. And of course, Dr. Sugrim himself, you know, is a well-known, prominent member of the medical fraternity, as well as his two sons, Narendra and Shailendra. And I know that Shailendra is on as well, the call this evening. What I will do then is just ask Dr. Ramesh Sugrim to maybe say a few words and then sing his bhajan. As you know, Dr. Chatterdeo was a very spiritual person, so I'm sure that this is very appropriate. Dr. Sugrim?
Thank you, Dr. Reeta, for affording me an opportunity. It was with deep regret that I learned yesterday of the passing of this great soul. From what I've read and heard, he was indeed a very, very good doctor, and it is a real great loss for Guyana to lose such a doctor. I would like to just sing a song in his memory. Sukh dukh dono rehte jisme. Life is like a village that incorporates duality in experience. Sometimes there is pain and other times there is joy. God directs from above what really happens while we live on this earth. सुख दुख दोनों रहते जिसमें जीवन है वो गाँव कभी धूप कभी छाँव कभी धूप तो कभी छाँव ऊपर वाला पाता फेंके नीचे चलते दाव कभी धूप कभी छाँव कभी धूप तो कभी छाँव भले भी दिन आते जगत में बुरे भी दिन आते भले भी दिन आते जगत में बुरे भी दिन आते करवे मीठे फल कर्म के यहाँ सभी पाते कभी सीधे कभी उल्टे पलटे अजब समय के पाँव कभी धूप कभी छाँव कभी धूप तो कभी छाँव सुख दुख दोनों रहते जिसमें जीवन है वो गाँव कभी धूप कभी छाँव कभी धूप तो कभी छाँव क्या खुशियाँ क्या गम ये सब मिलते बारी बारी क्या खुशियाँ क्या गम ये सब मिलते बारी बारी मालिक की मर्जी पे चलते ये दुनिया सारी ध्यान से खेना जग नदिया में बंदे अपनी नाव कभी धूप कभी छाँव कभी धूप तो कभी छाँव सुख दुख दोनों रहते जिसमें जीवन है वो गाँव कभी धूप कभी छाँव कभी धूप तो कभी छाँव Thank you, and on behalf of myself and family, and on behalf of also the Berbice Medical Association, I would like to extend my deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Dr. Chatterdeo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sugrin. That was a very beautiful rendition, and I'm sure his family will greatly appreciate it. What I will do now is basically open the floor to persons who would like to give their own tributes and add their own words to what has already been said. I see that I have two persons have their hands up already. There's one person whose name I can't see. They're just indicated as iPhone 6. So I'm really sorry, but I don't know how to call you because I don't know your name. I will just send you a message. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Good night. How are you all? My name is Dr. Raj Singh. I'm actually Dr. Chatterdeo's cousin.
Cousin, yes.
We grew up together. So this is very difficult for me. We actually went to primary school and secondary school and medical school. I was a couple of years ahead of him, but we are the same age. We're just a few months apart. So this brings back a lot of good memories. I I heard all the speakers speak about his medical career, but I knew him as a boy growing up, so we had all our memories together. We were classmates from primary school, first standard. And even though he was described as quiet and humble, he's always been humble. He was quite a joker and quite a prankster. So in his young age, we also did a lot of cricket, myself, him, Sean Gaza, Vinu, Shamindra, Christopher. We all went to the same lessons and everything. So this is very difficult for me in this time. To you all, I would like to say thank you. And on behalf of the family, I would express my appreciation and thanks for all the kind words said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. I didn't know you were on the call. I actually searched for you because Mohalani told me of course I knew you when, I was a young intern and so on, but I didn't know that you were Dr. Chatterdeo's cousin. And so I'm very glad that you were able to be here, and so that, a close member of the family was actually present to hear some of the wonderful things that are being said about Dr. Chatterdeo. And I thank you so much for, being willing to share a few thoughts despite what must be your own quite overwhelming grief. And so, our thoughts and prayers go out to you and of course the rest of the family. And thank you so much for being here to share this with us.
Thank you, Reeta. You're welcome. Thank
Stay
you,
safe,
Reeta. You're
stay
welcome.
well. Yes, I heard you, and thank you so much, and stay safe and stay well.
Same to you all.
All right. Okay, now I would just I see the Guyana Karate family has their hand up. I'm not sure who the person is speaking on behalf of this association, but please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sensei Lawrence Lowe, member of International Karate University, also Guyana Karate College. Dr. Chatterdeo, son Abiyang, is a member of our organization for a number of years now. At this time, I've always admired Dr. Chatterdeo. He always being there for his children, and he always being on time, and he's always be there to support our organization, especially when we have a karate tournament. I would always be pleased, and as honor to having him on our organization, because in case of an accident with the children or in case of an injury, he's always be there free of charge to help us out. All right, so and he also take his time. Many Sundays he would take his time to come and help us out with our tournament and so on. And also when we travel overseas in 2018, he was there from 8 in the morning to whatever it is in the evening, always willing to lend his hands. Many times we don't need him, but it's always be a pleasure to having him there with us. So, at this time here is a great loss to our organization, because as you know, most of our students is children under the age of 18, right? So it's a great loss, because it's really, it's something that sometimes, I can't explain it, but to having him and his family on board with us for over the years is really, I don't have words to say tonight. I don't really have no words, but I would like to thank you guys for keeping this meeting tonight. This is the first time I'm on a virtual meeting like this. So, and this is great and helpful. And I also would like to say good night to everyone and to the family and close relatives. Our organization is sending out so much text messages, but I can't get all to you guys. But there's so much, and I'm getting a lot of text message on my phone for you guys. So on behalf of our karate organization, Guyana Karate College, School of the Nation, Westfield School, and our International University of Canada, our prayers is with the family and close relatives at this time. And thank you guys for the opportunity tonight to speak. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much, and thanks to the Karate Association, the Karate University, because it just brings home to us, I think, how wide-reaching Dr. Chatterdeo's influence was, his touch how many lives he touched. And of course, he will be greatly missed. And thank you so much. I would just, and of course, I think I heard you say that this is the first time you've been on an online meeting of this sort. So thank you so much for joining and, making use of the technology to be able to share this moment with us. I would now like to call on Ms. Diana Ramdin.
Yes.
Hand is up.
Hi. Hi, I'm here. Good night, all. I've met Dr. Chatterdeo while I was studying pharmacy many, many years ago. Luckily, with work, I was fortunate to maintain that relationship throughout these years. I could have called Dr. Chatterdeo at any time, and I will miss him for that. Apart of that, he was always willing to participate as a presenter at my work presentations and never told me no, that he can't do it. Sometimes I would sit and ask him, Dr. Chats, how do you actually do it? Being a part in all these organizations and doing so much. He would always smile. He never really gave me an answer. How does he really do it? He was a great human. And to Indra and to his 2 kids, my sincerest condolences. We have lost a great human, but for sure heaven has gained an angel. And I will miss him. I will miss him dearly for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramdin, for sharing your thoughts with us. I would now like to call on, okay, I'm not sure if this is Miss or Mr. Sewak, because the profile just says Sewak. So if that person, please introduce yourself.
Good night, everyone.
Go ahead.
Good night, everyone. My name is Sewak Shivnandan. I am the father-in-law of Dr. Seepersaud Chatterdeo, known as Bram. I first met Bram in 1997 on the occasion when he came to my home and he said, Mr. Sewak, I'm in love with your daughter and I would like to be betrothed to her and to make her his wife. The engagement followed shortly, and in year 2000, Indra and Bram got married. From the time I know Bram, he has always been a very kind individual, very humble, and giving good advice from time to time. His advice were really timing. And his life, as I look at it, he has been a very good husband, a loving husband, loving and caring father. Whatever he does, it is for the benefit of his immediate family, extended family, and to those with whom he make contact with, even in his professional arena. Bram, he always addressed me as Dad. He has never been angry with me or with anyone. He always possessed a loving smile and always have good words to say. I know for a fact, at one time, he came home and he saw me writing. He said, "What are you doing, Dad?" I said, "I am penning my thoughts by writing few poems." And he encouraged me. When I finished writing, he would vet, he will read, and he will say, "Very good." Only recently we had a chat, and he asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing much. I'm retired. I'm at home." He said, "But what? Are you still writing?" I said, "No." He said, "You know, you should continue writing. But fortunately or unfortunately, I have already completed my anthology of poems entitled Thoughtful Thoughts." So he said, "Go on and write some more." I said, "Okay, I will give it a serious thought and I will try my best." My last conversation with him was his last wedding anniversary, the 6th of August this year, 2020. And he wished me well, I wished him well, and I hope you continue to do your good works and you will enjoy life to its fullest. So be careful. Now, his passing has really been a loss to the entire family and community. We were shocked in the morning when we got the news from Indra to say that Bram wasn't feeling well. The ambulance was at home, and now he was leaving for hospital. We say, okay, maybe he will be well. Not long after, but half an hour after, maybe an hour, we learned that he has passed away. It was so bad and hard on us. We felt so sorry. You know, it became very devastating. However, life has to go on. You know, our scripture, the Gita says, I'm saying it in English, once there is birth, there must be death. If you're born, you must die. And we, as we usually say, that we believe in reincarnation. For the good things that he has done, I am certain, I'm very positive that he will gain moksha. He will have that freedom and emancipation to be with the good Lord so that he could born again and come into this world. With these few words on behalf of my family and relatives here in NY, I want to say my deepest sympathy to grandparents, brothers, brother and sister, and to all relatives. We are indeed sorry. And to the children, Vinaya and Abhigyan, we will surely miss Bram. But I want the family, Indra and the two children, to know mom and dad and, and her sisters, Lakshmi, Yogati, and Tej, we are here for them. With these words, I say thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. It's heartbreaking to have you here, but at the same time, very uplifting to know that such close members of the family can be here to share in this evening and to hear, you know, directly for yourselves what wonderful things people are saying about your son-in-law, your brother-in-law. And of course, we will share this with Indra and the children as well, so that, you know, they can see that you are here and they will hear the wonderful things you have to say, even though I'm sure, you know, you've been speaking to them directly as well. And so thank you so much. And of course, our deepest condolences and sympathies to all of you, to yourself, Mr. Sewak, and your wife and daughters, and, you know, the entire extended family. And I know that because of COVID, it's so difficult. You probably can't travel to come to Guyana to be with Indra right now. And so, you know, my deepest sympathies to you, and thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please feel free to stay on. You know, because even though we said we would finish at 9, I see it is now 9:10, but we have a few people here still who would like to give tribute. For those of you who maybe have already spoken or you know, who have other commitments that you really have to go and, you know, attend to, like if you have, you know, children to put to bed and that sort of thing, and you would like to leave, you know, please go ahead and be, and what we will do is we will share the recording. So maybe if you could send me a message, if you have to leave now, if you could just send me a message in the chat with your email address, we can always send you the link to the recording so that you can see the rest of the program. I would now like to call on, oh dear, Dr. Hardat is, I think, feeling very emotional. Dr. Hardat, please be strong. We're all here for you. We're all sharing in this moment. I would now like to call on Mr. Mohamed-Martin, who is representing, I think, the QC PTA. Mr. Shadim?
A pleasant good evening, everyone. I am part of the current executive body of the Queen's College PTA, of which Dr. Chatterdeo serves. And on behalf of this body, we would like to express our deepest sympathy and condolences to the wife and the 2 kids and all the other members of the extended family, and also to all those on this panel here. We were very saddened and shocked when we heard of his passing. Dr. Chatterdeo was a very committed person of the QCPTA. When I heard all the remarks of all the doctors and people from the university and the amount of contribution he made, it makes me wonder, how did he really find the time to contribute so much to so many sectors in our country? And in the PTA body QC, we always admire how he would get work done. In our chat discussion over the past couple of hours, our question is, how are we going to continue without him and without his contribution? We are very, very saddened at this time about his passing, and we would like to really express our deepest sympathy and condolences. We pray that God is going to grant his soul rest, and that God is going to give his family a special strength and comfort to deal with this situation at this time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shadim. I know that, as you said, it would be very difficult to find someone who can do, you know, exactly what he did, but I'm hoping that what he has done will inspire others to step up and, you know, try to give of their best as well, the same way that he did. So thank you very much for those words. The next person I would like to call is Mr. Tani Husti, who I remember from QC, and so I imagine he knew Dr. Chatterdeo since then as well. So Mr. Husti, Tani, over to you.
Good night, everyone. I too share the shock that we all felt of the news of Seepersaud's passing. You recognize that I say Seepersaud because it's a reflection on how long we would have known each other. From time to time, I tend to put pen to paper to pay tributes in one capacity to lawyers and other colleagues who have fallen, but the pen failed me yesterday. I looked at the Trade Wind song to think of Remember Your boyhood days and remember your wayward ways. And it was in 1984 that a group of us had the privilege of entering the halls of Queen's College. I see Raven Pal too with his hand up, so I will resist the temptation to say everything that I want to say. Seepersaud embodied an element of a phrase that we often hear, to thine own self be true. For the time we would have known each other, and for us it would be decades, he has been true to himself. The person he was when we would have been in QC in 1984 is the person he was up to yesterday. We were both, well, I was a little slim at the time and he was always a little chubby, but to thine own self be true. The quiet, gentle, we weren't giants then, but we all grow and some of us grow out. So those of you who see me today will recognize that I had something destined for me. But Seepersaud was always true to himself. He was true to us, his contemporaries. He was true, as we've heard everyone say. For a lawyer to be at a loss for words means that the hurt is deep. We knew each other before we were whoever we are. And one of the things that we recognized, or I recognized and as I reflected, would be that those ties that bind us from early, while we may drift apart, will always keep us together. I speak firstly on behalf of the class of 1984, that group of, I would say, elite students who entered Queen's College at a time when, or the last time we didn't have to compete with that other school on the East Coast, but I could not resist the temptation to make this observation. This is a loss that we will all feel and we'll all feel for a while. The good thing about life, and I put this on some of the notes that I've made, sometimes life is a cycle. In about 2009, we moved our chambers to Middle Street. And it was opposite Persaud's hospital where Dr. Chatterdeo for me, Seepersaud, had his clinic at the time until they closed recently. And we will always see each other, wave, and that smile that other speakers spoke of would have been always there. His life is a lesson to us in so many ways. We are fortunate to have been blessed by his short time with us, but his impact will endure for decades to come. The Honorable Minister, Dr. Persaud, shared the thoughts of his sister, who is a colleague at the bar. So I switch and I put on my Bar Association hat and extend condolences to her at this time on behalf of the bar as well. This shock will be with us for a while, but his memory and his kind deeds and his gentle persona will live on for much longer. On my own behalf, on behalf of my family, on behalf of the members of the class who entered QC in 1984, I extend deepest and sincerest condolences to his wife, his children, his siblings, his parents, and all his extended family at this most difficult time. May his soul rest in peace and rise in glory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Husdi, Tini, for those moving words. I know it's such a great loss to lose someone that you've known for such a long time from, you know, your formative years and so on. So thank you so much. Now I see that Mr. Paltu has his hand up, and I remember him as well, I think, from QC. When I started, you were all senior, more like, I think, prefects and so on. But before I call him, I would like to call on someone who had indicated earlier in the chat that they would like to speak, and this is, I'm just trying to find her. Yes, here we go. Ms. Kalawati Dat Singh, who would like to speak on behalf of the Guyana Pharmacists Association. So, Ms. Singh, over to you.
Hi, good evening, all. It is indeed sad on the loss of Dr. Chats, as we all call him. On behalf of the Guyana Pharmacists Association and the Pharmacy Council of Guyana, we wish to extend condolences to Indra, his children, his parents, his siblings, and their family on the whole. We are still in shock from hearing of his passing, and this is indeed a great loss to the pharmacy fraternity, which was his first love, and he still gave his heart to this profession. Dr. Chats is such a humble person that we can always call upon him to impart his knowledge to the pharmacists, the students, and also the assistants. He was also an instrumental part in the internship program, which is run by the Pharmacy Council of Guyana, in that he is one of the preceptors. He has made such an impact on many lives, pharmacists on the whole, and his memory will live on with us. May his soul rest in peace. And just like to extend sincere condolences to the medical fraternity also, and the Indra and the chairman once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dat Singh, and to the Pharmacy Association as well for you know, participating and giving your own tribute, and our condolences to you as well on your loss. Yes. The next person whose hand is up is Mr. Paltu. So Mr. Paltu, please go ahead when you're ready.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay. My colleague Tini and Rajan spoke earlier, and I've known Seepersaud, Chatterdeo, or Brahm as we used to call him, since 1984, as Tini mentioned. And when you really think about it, it's been a long time. It's been 36 years ago since we started Form 1 at Queen's College. And as a form mate, I have observed him channel his quiet, gentle, reserved, and studious demeanor to becoming one of Guyana's leading pediatricians. And he was much more than a pediatrician from all accounts. We know for a fact that he entered the profession not just to become a doctor, but solely out of a desire to serve. And what better way to have served than to serve our children, the most vulnerable in our midst. Alas, his departure has been untimely, and he had so much more to contribute. We have certainly lost a true stalwart, a clinician, a teacher, a father, a husband, a friend, and truly a great son of the soil. It would be remiss of me not to extend my condolences to the family and the friends and the workmates of Brahm on behalf of myself, and also on behalf of my wife, Dr. Marcia Paltu, and as Tini mentioned, the Queen's College class of 1984. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paltu. And it is so touching to see that we have persons joining who knew him, you know, from such a long time ago. It really is. I think it's a tribute to the lasting impression that he made on everyone that he met. And so we're very pleased that you were able to be here. Our next person is Ms. Diana Singh. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Dr. Diana Singh, but please go ahead. Diana Singh.
Good night, everyone. My sympathies to Indra Chatterdeo, Vinaya, Abhigyan, his mom and dad, and everyone else who has been heartbroken by his loss. My name is Dr. Diana Singh indeed. I am a former student of Dr. Chatterdeo's, and I'm also one of his friends and someone who he mentored and molded into a doctor. I wanted to share tonight some of the stories that I have of him because I met him more than a decade ago, which amounts to basically a third of my life. And I remember very vividly the very first day I ever laid eyes on Dr. Chatterdeo. I was sitting in my pharmacology class, almost ready to fall asleep because I was bored by the topic. And I smelled the most amazing cologne. And I gravitated towards the scent and I looked in the door and there he was. And I remember it was love at first sight. I absolutely fell in love with the calm that was emanating off of this man. I've known him for a decade. And over that time, I cannot remember when he stopped being my teacher and when he started being a father. I certainly loved him like he was a father. And I truly believe that he loved me like I was his own daughter. I have had the opportunity to sit with Dr. Chatterdeo when I was a student and see him work. And I heard someone come to the door and said, "A patient is crashing. Have you ever seen Dr. Chatterdeo get up and run?" I have seen that. In the blink of an eye, he was gone like lightning. And that was the kind of man that was ready to run to save someone's life. Dr. Chatterdeo met me in that same place that Dr. Reeta Gobin was talking about with all the benches in the hospital, crying because I was so frustrated that I couldn't hear a murmur and that I had gone 6 months through clinical rotation and couldn't appreciate a murmur. And he just showed up and he said, "Di, tonight is not the night to be crying because tonight you are going to hear a murmur on call." And you better believe that I heard a murmur on call for the first time in my life because Dr. Chatterdeo willed it so. When I was nursing a broken heart, a hug from Dr. Chatterdeo was the only thing that could cure it. Anyone who's been on the receiving end of a hug from Dr. Chatterdeo knows that it is the only thing that can cure anything that ails you. Whenever I needed medical advice or any sort of advice, and I called Dr. Chatterdeo, it doesn't matter what time of the day we called him. I would always start by saying, "Dr. Chats, can you talk?" And Dr. Chats's response would always be, "Yes, Di, I can talk to you." Dr. Chatterdeo was always available to everyone because that was the kind of man he was. Dr. Chatterdeo is the reason I am a pediatrician today. I did not choose this profession for myself. You know, they say that everyone should make their own decisions in life. I'm here to contest that because I let Dr. Chatterdeo make the biggest decision of my life. He was the one that decided that Diana Singh was right for pediatrics. And I can honestly say 5 years down the line practicing pediatrics that the decision Dr. Chatterdeo made for me was the best one I've ever had anyone make for me in my entire life. 2 days before his passing, I messaged him and I told him about some of the challenges I was having at work. And Dr. Chatterdeo told me to stay safe. If I knew that was the last time I would be talking to him, I would have said something very differently. I would have said, "Dear Dr. Seepersaud Chatterdeo, we are who you made us. There is a little bit of chats in all of us. We are proud of you, just as you are of us. And we love you as much as you love us. Goodbye, Dr. Chatterdeo. Or as I've recently started calling him, Uncle Bram. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. It's difficult for me to find words to respond to such a moving tribute. It was extremely touching, and I know that one of the things that I would like to say to you to help to comfort you and all of the others who are feeling his loss so keenly tonight is that, as we have said before, his legacy lives on in all of those that he touched, in all of those that he taught and trained. And I think you are a perfect example of that. You clearly demonstrate, just how much his influence and his legacy will reach far into the future. And, so even though he is gone, what he gave to the world will live on in the form of not just his own family, his own children, but also in so many of the students that he taught and who are now also doctors and pediatricians in their own right, carrying on the excellent work that he did. Thank you so much. The next person is Gina. I'm not sure what the last name is, but Gina, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Actually, my name is Regina. Myself and Devika Hoblal were assistant to Dr. Chatterdeo at his clinic. I don't know if anyone here knows of his private clinic in Kanji Street that he had recently opened because of the COVID-19 and his patients being concerned about being safe and so on. So my name is Regina Edwards, and on behalf of myself and Devika Hoblal, we worked along with him in the pediatric clinic. And I don't even really know what to say. From what Dr. Diana Singh said, all of us worked along when Dr. Chatterdeo couldn't be there. We were there. Dr. Singh was there, Dr. Maranatha, Dr. Kunji, Dr. Blair, and sometimes Dr. Padmini used to be there, but we were working together there. And I remember sometimes patients would be calling on the phone, and he would have several different patients calling at one time, and he would answer little, and then he would stop, and he was more or less like an avenger, a superhero to us, because everyone he was trying to be there for. And at this time, I really don't know what to say more, but I'm just still at shock and loss. And he was a lot to us. And not being able to pick up the phone and call him or go to work and see him and so on, I really can't explain that feeling, but we will miss him very dearly, and we will miss him very dearly. And good night to everyone, Honorable Minister, and all other medical persons.
Thank you so much, Regina. And it's absolutely understandable that you can't find words at this time, because even the most eloquent of us are having difficulty finding words to express the grief that we feel because of this sudden shocking loss. And so please take comfort in knowing that you're not alone, that there are so many people who appreciated him and who missed him, and who I'm sure also viewed him as a superhero. And I wonder which Avenger he would be if he had to be an Avenger. And so thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and feelings with us. And of course, for his family's benefit, to know that he was so loved by those he worked with. Thank you so much, and our condolences and sympathies to you as well, because you work closely with him, and so it's understandable that you will feel his loss very deeply. But we pray for strength at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So to everyone, I don't see any more hands up or any other indication that anyone would like to say anything. So I will just ask, if there is anyone who would like to say anything, and if you're not able to indicate using one of the icons, you can just unmute your mic and let me know. If anyone who spoke before would like to add anything further. Oh, I see a hand has gone up. And before I call on Ms. Onika Gittins, I just wanted to say that several persons have been sending their tributes in the chat and their condolences to the family in the chat. So please be assured that I will save the chat and also share that with the family. So it's not just going to be the recording, but they will also see the messages that you have left. And I see Maranatha is saying here that Dr. Chatz was a Jedi. Yes, like I can believe that. So if he wasn't an Avenger, then at least he was a Jedi. So both, maybe he could have been both. That would have been fitting. Okay. I would just like now then to call on Ms. Onika Gittins, whose hand is up.
Good night, everyone. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I could not let the opportunity pass because Dr. Chatz did something great for me. I think I should share it because I was at the stage in my university life, was actually forgetting about the pharmacy program. But before, I must say, I met him when I went to work at Persaud Hospital. I met his wife first, and then I met him one day when he came to pick her up. And from then on, I admired the couple because they were always jolly. Whenever he come into the pharmacy, he would come right into the pharmacy, crack jokes, got us in our teeth, and then they would leave, and this was a daily something. Every day we worked. So I was actually forgetting about UG because of a few courses, and he met me in Middle Street. And he's like, Onika, I'm not seeing you. What's going on? You finished the program? I said, Dr. Chatz, I can't go anymore. And he's like, Onika, you come this far. You need to finish what you started. I am pulling some courses, come back. And from that moment, I went back, and everything went well after. We became friends. Always, we meet anywhere, we talk. We worked at balancing together. We worked at GPH together. And he was always fun, inspiring to be around. And I just want to send out condolences to his entire family and ask Indra to be very strong. We know you guys are veterans, and we just ask you to be strong and continue what he started. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Onika, Ms. Gittins, and our condolences to you, of course, on losing someone who was a dear friend and mentor to you. And, of course, the fact that you were on the verge of giving up and then he was able to inspire you to continue and to finish, that is a wonderful story and a wonderful tribute. So thank you very much. I see Josh Budiel. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I wasn't really going to say anything either, but I wanted to pay my tributes to Dr. Chatterdeo because he's really touched my life when I was in medical school. there were some points where when I had some really, I thought it was really tough to go on, but he always finds an encouraging word to give you. There's not much I can say, but sometimes I like to sing in my quiet time. If I may sing a song.
Sure, please go ahead.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, and I am still and waiting in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I could stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. And I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. There is no life without you. Your restless heart beats so imperfectly, and when you come and my heart filled with wonder, sometimes I think I glimpse eternity. You raise me up so I could stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. And I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. I think I remember you when you were a student. That was very moving, and I think it was a perfect song choice because that is exactly what Dr. Chatterdeo did for so many people who needed a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of motivation, and just that gentle touch, but with enough power to push people on. That is what he was, and so the song I think reflects that very well. Thank you so much. All right. I don't see any other hands up. I do know we're still getting some messages in the chat. And so, oh, okay, I see Radha Luknath, her hand is up. So please go ahead, Radha. You might be muted. You're muted, Radha.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, yes. I wanted to say thank you for putting together this wonderful tribute and celebration of Dr. Chatterdeo's life. Lots have been said about Dr. Chatterdeo, so I would not go through that. What I wanted to talk about is when he was our HOD, a GPHC, and mention, the persons he studied with. It was him, Dr. Bowman. They had a truncated program, so they finished before us. So it was Sarah Singh, myself, Dr. Sherilyn Stanton, and Dr. Sparman. So we were the second batch, to put it that way, that graduated from the Masters in Pediatrics. And then there were 4 other doctors. That's Dr. Alladin group. It was her, Dr. Malishura, I'm sorry. Dr. Stephanie Singh and Dr. Winsome Scott, who's overseas also pursuing a fellowship. And it's true what Areefa said, she has been encouraged. That's the one good thing about Dr. Chatterdeo. He always encourages you, you know, to give of your best, do your best. And it's like someone mentioned tonight, how does a person do all of this? Take care of their family, have a challenging position, still have time to talk to patients on phone, and, you know, do so much. I used to ask him, do you sleep? Because he's forever busy. And the same thing he would do, he would just smile and say, yeah, I do. I mean, he had a pretty crazy, hectic lifestyle because, as someone mentioned, I think as Dr. Cummings mentioned, seeing him with his family. There are many times I saw him with his family too, which means that he had family time. It just wasn't, you know, all profession and no personal life. He seems to have had a balance. And I just want to say he's a great human being. I can't even begin to fathom how Indra must be feeling right now and his family. And I'd just like to say on behalf of the pediatric department and for us who work closely with him, I want to say he was a great man, and indeed his legacy will live on, and extend, you know, deepest condolences to Indra, and we pray for the family, and we pray for Dr. Chatterdeo's soul. I know he's Hindu and he was very much into religion, because, you know, fast days would come and he would ask me, are you fasting for Nowrats? Or, you know, there's Diwali celebration and stuff. And his humility, his kindness, his willingness to help people, even if it's advice. I've seen him give advice, monetary contributions. He has done it all. Like, he has lived a full life. And somebody mentioned, you know, God needs somebody like you up in heaven. And it's true. We always say that all the good people go first. And, you know, you feel like the family are, they're hurt. But then with time, you know, people heal. But he did live a life. He's a great person, a great soul, a wonderful human being, and medical students can speak for him. Our department can speak for him. And, you know, there is nothing bad that you would hear about Dr. Chatterdeo. I think Darshanand Miraj mentioned in a post that it's unfair. We all feel like it's unfair. Hinduism has a belief that, you know, when your time reach. But in this case too, I would say this is unfair. We didn't want you to go as yet. And it's likewise, people are messaging me and asking me now who should be their pediatrician, because I've also worked with him privately, and I don't know what to say, because these are some of the people, you know, that I recommended to go see Dr. Chatterdeo. And I feel bad. It was really heartbroken. I wasn't sure I was even going to be able to say much, but you know, this well put tribute, I think, is really great. So for you, Dr. Singh, Dr. Gobin, to organize this, and whoever helped you, I would like to extend deep gratitude. And again, my condolences to the family, to everybody. And, you know, say thank
you. They can't hear you. See everybody, Mike.
Yeah, are you hearing me now? Yeah, so that's about it. So thank you, Dr. Gobin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucknott, for sharing your experiences with with Dr. Chatterdeo, and of course, our condolences go out to you as well, as someone who has lost a mentor and a colleague and a friend.
Thank you.
All right. I see Galaxy S10. I'm so sorry to call you by the name of your device, but some persons haven't put on their names. So Galaxy S10 Plus.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
All right, so my name is Bisunde Singh. I am Dr. Seepersaud's first cousin. His mother and my mother, they're sisters. And this is a terrible moment for us. And I personally would like to thank every one of you tonight. And we hear you. We feel your pain. But our pain is extremely terrible. My mom and dad, they're in a terrible situation. But I'll have to compose myself since I am the eldest for boys as cousins. We have heard a lot tonight about Dr. Seepersaud or Bram. For me is Rajesh. This is a man who all of us are stunned that disappeared just like that. And only Monday, he called me and he said, and this was just amazing because most of the time I call him. Whenever somebody in the family have some issue, I'll call him. And right away he would answer and quickly, wherever he's in clinic or wherever he is. If he doesn't have the time, he would just message me quickly and say, I will call you back right away. And he called me Monday in the morning, sometime before 7. And he said, you remember we had all this chat about COVID and all this thing. And I just wanted to let you know that you can't catch this thing at all. This is how he exactly said. You can't catch this thing at all if you social distance, wear your mask. And what is most important, every time you change a location, please sanitize your hand because you can unknowingly touch your face or fix your mask. And it's a reflex action. So just as you change location, please sanitize your hand. And but he was soft and so on and quick. So I said, Doc, well, I am not going anywhere and so on, but I thanks for the advice and so. And he said, but make sure you pay attention to that. And I said, thank you. Sunday morning, my aunt called Auntie Golo, and she said, Bram died. So I said, what you say? She said, Bram is dead. And from then to now, it's terrible. So I just like to thank everyone out there for sharing our pain. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing in this with us, and we're glad that we were able to share with you. I know that this is such a sad time to even be making new acquaintances and so on, such sad circumstances, to be reconnecting with people we've known before and things like that. But I hope that we can all take comfort from each other, knowing that we are sharing the loss, we're sharing the grief, and also sharing in the joy of having known Dr. Chatterdeo, and to his family members especially. Our hearts are with you, our prayers and our thoughts are with you. Stay strong, and I know that you must grieve, but also think of how he would want you to be. He wouldn't want you to spend all of your time being unhappy. He would want you to carry on and to find joy in life again. And so, while we must grieve at this time, please remember the quiet strength that he had. And I'm sure you can find it in yourself also, that kind of quiet strength to carry on. And so thank you so much for joining and sharing your feelings with us. Thank you so much. Stay strong.
As a result of the shooting, the Kenosha Police Union says Blake had a knife and fought with officers. However, investigators with Wisconsin's Department of Justice have only said a knife was found on the.
Reeta.
Hi, Dr. Cummings.
I think we have to somehow remember chats in a very significant way. I know Areefa spoke about the best graduate in pediatrics, but I think I'm even want to go beyond that. As I listen to all of these tributes, and I think I've known Chats longer than, apart from his family, I've known him for more than 25 years. And when we think about his contribution and all that has been said, I'm wondering if we're talking about Jesus Christ, a man who's never committed a sin. He lived such a perfect life, and I honestly believe that the university, the hospital, the Ministry of Health has to really, in a very significant way, remember, so that medical students 20 years from now, 50 years from now, should be able to feed and to remember the work of this great physician, this great medical educator, this great human being. And I will do all within my influence to ensure that that happens. In my original conversation this evening, I also would like to mention, he also referred to me as Chief. He called a lot of people, Chief. You've all referred to me as Chief as well. He called everybody Chief. And that is because despite his achievement, he still recognized he was so humble. And I think he was a giant in our environment. And so I think we have to do all that we can. I know Areefa spoke about her contribution, but as a medical school, as a university, we have to do much more than that. This was a great man.
I absolutely support that, Dr. Cummings, and I know that so many of his students and colleagues and so on would agree with you. And as I said before, it's definitely something we will explore to see, what is the most fitting way that we can establish some kind of long-lasting tribute to Dr. Chatterdeo, in honor of all that he has given to us, all that he has given to the medical profession, and as I said before, to generations of medical professionals and Guyana's children to come, and even beyond Guyana, who will benefit from the persons that he taught. And so absolutely we will have to identify something quite significant to even begin to represent the significance of his own contributions. And so this is something that we will be discussing in the future at the level of the school and the university. I see that it's now nearly 10, and I don't know if there's anyone else who would like to say anything before we close. Of course, it is difficult for us to say, let us bring this to an end, because of course, everyone feels so strongly about Dr. Chatterdeo. We had such admiration, respect, liking, affection for him, and now we feel such a big gaping hole, I think, has been left in our lives because he is no longer here. My own perspective listening to everyone tonight is actually just to sum it up, a quotation that's from, I think it is a quotation from the Bible. I'm not a Christian, but I know that there is a saying that the meek shall inherit the earth. And I think given what we've heard of Dr. Chatterdeo, and, I think if we use meek, not in the sense of being, afraid or timid or anything like that, but being someone who's gentle and soft-spoken and kind, not aggressive in any way, not violent, then I think if meek in that saying is defined by Dr. Chatterdeo and what he was, then indeed, I think they shall inherit the earth, because we can see from, just the scope of what he has achieved and who he has reached, that his legacy, it goes beyond his personal sphere, beyond the school, beyond the university, beyond Guyana, to other parts of the world. As Dr. Cummings mentioned, we had, for example, one of our graduates, Dr. Reddy, who came from New Zealand, so far away. And so I think we need to, while we grieve and so on, and of course we honor what he did, we share our stories, we share our memories, I think we all need to reach inside of ourselves and find that part of us that can emulate Dr. Chatterdeo, that can follow the sort of role model that he was. And if we can all learn, to reflect the same sort of values and the same sort of attitude and practices as we go through life. Be kind, be humble, strive to achieve the most that you can. But when you do achieve those things, don't let them be, a reason for being unkind or aggressive to anyone else. Be humble, be helpful. And I think if we can do that, then the world will be in a much, much better place than it currently is. And so while it is a great loss that Dr. Chatterdeo is no longer with us, we are so grateful for all that he has given to us in the short time that he was here, and his legacy will live on. And so I want to thank you all for joining us, for sharing your feelings, even if you didn't actually speak. Just your presence here is an indicator of how much you cared, how much he touched you, and hopefully, will help to bring some comfort to his family, knowing that so many people loved him. And so I just wanted to say thank you all and wish you all a good night. And please, to reinforce the importance of staying safe in these very perilous times that we live in. We all know what we're faced with. Guyana especially is now facing its COVID spike. And so please, when you go out there, you and your families and your friends and your colleagues, please share the message that it is so absolutely important, not just for your own safety, but for the safety of everyone else around you, to take all the appropriate precautions. And so if there is one thing that we can take away with us this evening, is that Dr. Chatterdeo was a hero, he was a role model, and we should aim to emulate him as well in our own lives. So thank you all very much. Thank you for joining, and a very good night to everyone. For those of you who would like a copy of the recording, please leave your email address in the chat and I will send the link to you. So thank you all so much.
She had three sisters, and my four sisters. I don't know. Only 47 years ago. He born 1972, 19th October. My birthday. 1984, he started at Queen's College. Then he do pharmacology. Then he go UG for medicine. Mean that the place he study. Right to Guyana. But he just come a conference and so pediatrics thing at the States, Canada, and so when then doctor and thing me go up and he the 19 or how much he and one that black man them in thing for left.
Anyhow, how you get teeth?
Now why you